First in high definition. Live, local, late breaking. This is WNBF News Today at 5.
More than 24 are facing charges of helping run a cockfighting ring in the PD. We have new details on the condition of the animals that were seized and why some say the penalty in this state has never fit the crime.
Plus, first responders have a new way to help keep you breathing after an accident. How this protects you each moment that your life is on the line.
And a major turn in the employment world as more job candidates are able to ask, what can you do for me? And our work week begins on a chilly note, folks. Our First Alert forecast starts right now.
First off, we are dealing with a late season frost advisory for several folks this morning, including inland Horry County, Marion County, Dillon County, stretching across the state line into Robson County. Now, the good news is, even though we have that frost advisory in place, for the most part, temperatures are managing to stay in the 40s. Right now, 45 in Myrtle Beach, 40 for Lumberton and Laurinburg, and 40 in Florence. The spots that we're mainly concerned with, Conway at the airport at Keys Field checking in at 34 degrees, 37 in Marion right now. Another thing that we're tracking for you today, the chance of rain. Here it is right now on our satellite and radar, just about to make its way into the Carolinas. I'll let you know when it's going to be coming through your neighborhood coming up at 5:15.
Marla Branson, thank you so much for that. A traffic alert for you this morning. A new construction project to improve the safety at one intersection begins today. The crews are making the crossing of Highway 72 and Union Chapel Road in Robeson County an all-way stop. A 5-year study showed that there were 29 crashes just at that intersection. North Carolina DOT found that putting up a flashing light was not enough to warn drivers. That's why crews are making it an all-way stop now. The work isn't expected to cause any detours. Also changing this week, a 4-way stop at Seaboard Street and Commons Avenue becomes a 2-way stop tomorrow. Drivers on Seaboard Street will be able to drive right through that intersection without stopping, while those of you driving on Seaboard Commons will have to stop. Horry County Fire Rescue paramedics have a new skill up their sleeves that could make a big difference in saving your life during an emergency. Katrina Helmer is live in Carolina Forest with exactly how that works. Good morning to you.
Well, good morning, David. It's called RSI, or rapid sequence intubation. So if you're having a hard time breathing after an accident, it basically allows paramedics to breathe for you with a specialized training and device. And this is the first time this type of treatment has been cleared for county paramedics in the field.
This will actually rub against the bones in your throat, and that gives us an indication that we're in the right place.
That tube is just one of many new tools now on board some of our Horry County ambulances. They're each designed to help keep you alive and breathing as paramedics transport you to the hospital.
It basically buys us time to where before we were basically just going down the road as fast as we could to get them to the hospital and hoping we could make it there in time. Now this allows us to support their airway and provide treatment that we need to provide to them en route to the hospital.
And if there's a long travel time to the hospital, making sure you're breathing properly will keep you stable for the entire trip.
Some of the supplies we're going to use when we do an RSI, the first big important thing that we have is the drugs. They have to be secured because some of these are regulated by the state, and they can be very harmful if they get into the wrong hands. A lot of these patients that we're RSIing are going to be difficult airways. They're going to have trauma. They're going to have clenched jaws to where they may be seizing. So some of the other things that we've purchased is what's called a bougie.
Once those drugs start to slow your breathing, then they'll insert that bougie down your throat and then slip a tube over top. That will allow the paramedics to take control of your breathing.
It allows us to do more care on the scene, to provide more treatment to our patients.
The funding for this new equipment was provided as a part of the annual budget. The paramedics who are now certified for this were all volunteers for this program. Reporting live in Carolina Forest, Katrina Helmer, WNBF News.
Katrina, thank you. 5:04 on this Monday morning. 27 people facing charges this morning after a cockfighting ring bust at a home in Marlboro County. 122 roosters and one dog with 10 puppies also rescued Saturday night after police got a tip about that ring. A non-profit organization now caring for the animals. 5 of the roosters did die from their injuries. Some of the birds had stab wounds, concussions, even broken bones.
The birds have spurs, which are very sharp spikes on the back of their legs. So they're bloody. They're shredded, bloody. They clearly, try to make them as aggressive as possible.
Investigators say Carson Clark was the promoter of the cockfighting event. Clark is his son, along with 25 others, were arrested in connection to the case. Under South Carolina law, cockfighting is a misdemeanor, punishable by a fine of up to $1,000 and up to a year in jail. Many think that is not enough. New this morning, if crossing arms don't get your attention, this might. Police departments across the country now being asked to give more tickets to violators at railroad crossings. This all follows recent crashes in North Carolina, New York, and California. The Railroad Administration reports there have been more than 10,000 such crashes at railroad crossings in the last 5 years alone. Those crashes have killed more than 1,200 people and injured thousands of others. Happening today, a unique event at the Burroughs and Chapin Art Museum begins. Tibetan monks will be in Myrtle Beach creating a mandala sand painting. Now, it's a slow process that requires the monks to pour the sand grain by grain for 5 straight days, creating a piece of art aimed at creating energy for health, healing, and peace. The opening ceremony, including the beginning of the sand mandala, is this afternoon at 2 o'clock. Work will continue through Friday from 10 to 4 each day. A closing ceremony Saturday will include a procession carrying that sand painting to the ocean for a ritual of healing. That will be at 2 o'clock. And for those of you looking for some good deals, Myrtle Beach Shopping Days returns this weekend. That event runs from Friday through Sunday. Now, it's a time when you're encouraged to shop at local businesses all over the city. During the weekend, stores can use outdoor displays and sidewalk sales when other parts of the year they cannot. You can even camp on site at stores up to 24 hours before the first shopping day, but you need to get the business owner's permission before setting up that tent or sleeping bag. Are you happy with your job? More companies are trying to put that smile on your face. With hiring picking up, job hunters have more options than they did just a few years ago. And that's put a little more pressure on employers to invest in things that keep us happy. Karen Kaifa now with the latest.
Washington Social Tables has grown from a handful of employees in 2011 to a current staff of 75. That's required a little more structure.
I gave everybody a stack of Post-its and I said, what don't you want this company to become? They listed all kinds of things like never run out of snacks, executive team should always be available, whatever other things that were important to everybody. And we found patterns and we created the 10 Commandments.
As the hospitality software company changes, CEO Don Berger says those commandments will not. With jobs on the rebound, the workplace and the things that make employees want to come to work every day are back in the spotlight. David Ballard of the American Psychological Association studies healthier workplaces and says the best have certain things in common.
They involve employees in meaningful ways in the day-to-day decisions that affect them on the job. They take steps to train and develop employees so they can gain and use new skills on the job. They put in flexible work arrangements and pay attention to work-life balance.
For larger companies with existing structures, it can be more difficult than a startup. That's led hotel chain Starwood to experiment. To attract the creative, digital, and design types they wanted, their new Manhattan space had to have a certain vibe.
It's great to have an office here that's a really cool place to come in and be part of.
There's heavy digital integration, a real-time social ticker, and wall frames streaming Instagram photos. But perhaps more importantly, Senior Vice President Mike Tidy says, is that the space encourages workers to get up from their cubicles.
We purposely set out to create those collision areas. We've created those, little areas where you can sit and, come together and have a cup of coffee and share what you're working on a project.
Not every workplace is going to have a conference room with a mini bar stools like Starwood's, or an office jet like Social Tables. But even just a little motivation can go a long way.
I want them to be excited for Monday because that's a brand new week and a brand new opportunity to have an impact.
And employers small and large are finding that's good for business. In Washington, I'm Karen Kaifa.
Glad to